Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So in today's tutorial we are going to go ahead and build a very simple project using machine learning basically. So we're going to be building a text summarizer using Python. You're going to be doing this natural language processing project. So this is part of data science whereby we teach computers to be able to understand human text. So we're going to basically create a simple program that is going to take in a text and it's going to return to you a summary of that text, right? So let's imagine that you have maybe you have a website where you get news from, right? So you get a lot of news from all this website, and nowadays we are all busy and stuff, so maybe we don't have time to read all of that news, right? And it's a long article or it's a long report on something, so you can just pass it through a text summarizer and give you a summary of what is being said instead of that newsletter or that article or something like that. So that's what you're going to create. So you're going to create a very simple program, and it's going to be just few lines of Python code. It's not going to be a lot, but I'm going to explain to you the intricate details of how all this comes together and how all this works together, right? So we're going to be using a Python library called Spacy. So Spacy is a Python library for dealing with natural language processing projects. So natural language processing, as I said, it's just teaching computers to be able to understand human text, right? So yeah, that's basically what you're going to be doing. So the first thing we need to do is actually install Spacy on our machine. So let me just go ahead and let's set up our environment. So I'm going to create a folder. Feel free to use any system that you want, but I'm going to be using Linux, so I'm going to be doing this in the terminal, and I'm going to call this text underscore summarizer or something like this. And then I'm simply once I have this directory created, I'm simply going to change into this directory, and then we can go ahead and actually set up some of the stuff there. So okay, I made a mistake here. This is actually mkdir and not the other way I typed it. So it's mk and then dir, so sorry for that. So once we have a directory created, I'm just going to clear my terminal, and once I have that, I'm going to change directory into my text summary. Okay, so once I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and set up a Python virtual environment. So we're going to have a Python virtual environment to keep our project dependencies separate from our global Python dependencies. Okay, well, if you want to create a virtual environment, feel free to pass this step, but I'm just going to create a virtual environment since I don't want to clutter my Python global environment with unnecessary libraries that I don't use, right? So I'm just going to say Python 3 and then -m vnv, and I'm going to call my virtual environment vnv. Okay, and well, one thing I have to say that this command is only going to work if you're on a MacBook or on a Linux. This command to create a virtual environment. So if you're on a MacBook or on a Linux, it's going to work for you, but if you're on a Windows machine, the command is different. And since I don't have a Windows machine to show you this, you guys can actually go and Google and see the command to do this on Windows, but this is how you do it on Linux. Okay, so once you have the virtual environment created, once I do an ls, you can see I have a folder called vnv right here. So let's go ahead and activate our virtual environment, and to do that I'm simply going to go ahead and say source vnv, which is the name of the folder, / bin, and then /activate. So this is going to go ahead and activate our virtual environment. So once our virtual environment is sorry, I actually made a mistake. This is actually source, and there's an e here, so source, and then run that. So once I have my virtual environment activated, I'm going to go ahead and install Spacy. So to install Spacy, you can find all these commands on the official documentation of Spacy. I'm just going to go ahead and simply copy this one and just go ahead and install it. So this is going to install the Spacy library for us, right? So it's going to install the Python wheel, setup wheel. This is just something that you need for Spacy to work. So if you don't install this and if you're trying to install Spacy, you might get some weird errors. So this is how you can beat those errors. So once we have that done, we also need to go ahead and actually install the Spacy library itself, which is going to be used for natural language processing projects. So let me just copy that, and I'm going to go back in my terminal and then paste that command here as well, and then run that. So once it's done installing, I'm also going to go ahead and install a trained pipeline, or this is basically a trained model. So these are just models that are trained on a lot of text that can help you deal with your different projects. So they come in different languages. So this one is for English, we have for Catalan, we have for Russian, we have for Danish, we have for Dutch, Finnish, Greek, and all those other languages so that are listed here. Okay, so in this case you're going to be using the trained model for English, which is just trained on a lot of English text, so it's able to do a lot of features such as speech tags and identification and stuff like that. So I'm not going to go into all of that, so I'm just going to sorry for that, I'm just going to go ahead and install the English one, and you're going to use that for our project, right? So I'm just going to copy this and go back inside of my terminal, and let's wait for this to get completed. And once this is done, I'm just going to go ahead and install the trained model. So once this is done, I'm also going to go ahead and just paste the other command right here, and this is going to go ahead and install the train pipeline. They are also called train pipelines if you ever work with Spacy, but this we're just going to call that. This, you can think of them like any machine learning model, right? That is trained on some text to do some classification stuff like that. Yeah, so you can see now you have it installed. So I'm just going to go ahead and clear my terminal this way. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Visual Studio Code. Feel free to use any editor that you're comfortable using. Okay, so I'm just going to open up my VS Code. Feel free to use Sublime, Atom, or PyCharm in case you are using PyCharm. Feel free to go ahead and use any of those. Okay, so once my VS Code is opened up, we can just begin to code. So I'm just going to go ahead and close this part. I don't need. So once I have that closed, I'm simply going to go ahead and create a file here. I'm going to call this file, I'm going to call it text.py file. So let me just not in here, I'm just in here, and I'm going to create this. Is going to be called text underscore summary summary.py file. So this way we're going to be writing our program logic. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and import Spacy. So I'm going to say import Spacy, just like this. So now that we have Spacy imported, I'm going to go ahead and load our model, right? And this is a pre-trained pipeline. Okay, so you can actually we have downloaded the one for English, the English version. So you can download for any other language if you want, like French, Russian, and all of that. So you can just go in the model and languages section of this documentation, and then from there you have many options to choose which model you want to use, then for which language that model is for. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to use the English model, and to load this, I'm just going to create a variable called NLP, and I'm going to say a spacy.load, and then you're going to go ahead and specify which model you want to load. So we want to say env underscore web underscore core underscore web underscore sm, and sm stands for a small model. If you want to download other advanced models, you can go ahead and download the LG model here, and also the TensorFlow model. Okay, the TRF model. So once we have that done, I'm going to go ahead and just create some random text, and this text is what you're going to be using, what you're going to be trying to summarize. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab this text, go into my my web page right here, and on my browser rather, I'm going to go ahead and go to my GitHub page, and on my GitHub page I can just grab the text from here. So I'm going to be using this text right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy all of this text. Okay, if you guys want me to keep this on the description so you guys can have access to this code, let me know in the comment section below. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go in here and simply create a text, and the text is going to be this. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that over there. So once I have that pasted here, I can just go ahead and write the other logic. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is the process the text data. So I'm going to go ahead and process the text data. So I'm going to say doc, and doc is going to be NLP NLP, and then you're simply going to pass in the text. So we're going to say text, and text is going to be the text that we have up here, because this is what you're going to be trying to summarize, right? So we're going to process our text a bit, and this is how you can process that textual data. So once I have my text data already processed, now I'm going to go ahead and actually do the process of summarizing the text. So I'm going to do this in 3 different stages. So the first stage is we're going to go ahead. The first thing we are going to do is create a dictionary to keep track of the word count. Okay, so we're going to create a dictionary to keep track of the word count, and then the second thing we're going to do, we're going to go to score each of these sentences based on how many times a given word appears in the sentence, and then the last thing is to score the sentences based on the score and give the top, and then you're going to return the top 3, right? Okay, and to do this, I'm going to create a word dictionary. I'm going to call word dict, and this is going to be just an empty dictionary. So in here, I'm going to write a for loop. So I'm going to say for word in doc dot for word in doc, right? We're going to go ahead and go through all the words inside of this process word, okay, which is stored in a variable called doc, and then from there, we're going to say word is going to be equals to word dot text. We're going to get the text version dot lower. Okay, we're going to convert it into an lowercase, right? Because we want to work with lower cases. Dot lower, just like that. So once I have that done, I'm simply going to go ahead and write an if statement here. So I'm going to go ahead and say if word in word dict. So this is going to be word dict. So if the word is currently in the word dict, right, also simply going to go ahead and do this word because it already exists. So we're going to say word dict, and then we're going to get that specific word. We're going to pass in word as the key, and then we're going to say plus equals to 1. Okay, so if the word exists instead of the word dictionary, we're going to add 1 to it. Else, we're going to have an else statement here. We're going to say else and then just pass the else statement here. So else, if the word doesn't exist, you're going to say the count is going to be just 1, right? So it's going to be just word dict, and you're going to get the word, and you're simply going to say equals to 1. So right, so if the word already exists, you're going to increment it by 1. If it doesn't exist, then we're going to initialize that word count with a 1, not a 0, sorry. So once we have that, you can simply go ahead and actually print the word dict and see what we get. So I'm just going to go ahead and print I'm going to print the word dict, so word underscore dict. Okay, and let's see what we get. So I'm just going to go inside of my terminal and then run this program. So to run it, I'm just going to go ahead and run it using Python, right? So we're going to say make sure your virtual environment is activated, so Python 3, and then you're going to say text underscore summary .py. So run this. Now that we have the word count of all those words, right, the words and their count, how many times they appear in the sentence, let's go ahead and get to the second step of this part, and this is just getting the score of the sentences, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and comment this out. So I'm going to go ahead and get the score of each of those sentences. So I'm just going to get score, this is going to be score sentences, right? So we're going to get the score of each of those sentences, and to do that, I'm just going to create a list, and I'm going to call it sentences. So sentences is going to be an empty list right here. So this sentences list is just going to be empty for now. We're just going to go ahead and append some couple of things to it later on. So what I want to go ahead and append into this sentence is going to be a tuple, right? So we just created a list of tuples. So each of these tuples is going to have the following. So it's going to have an index, right, an index of that sentence, and then the sentence itself, the text of that sentence, and then the score, like how many the weight of that sentence, basically based on how many times the word counts appear in that sentence, right? So let's begin the weight of each of those sentences. So I'm just going to go ahead and actually say sentences sentence underscore score, and this is going to be initialized. We're going to start from 0. Okay, so I'm going to say for I comma sentence in for I comma sentence in enumerate. So we're going to enumerate this, or enumerate, so enumerate, and then you're simply going to go ahead and pass in doc sense, right? It's going to return, sense is going to return to us the sentences of that document that we have. So once I have them, I'm going to go ahead and loop through each of those sentences, and then get the word count of get how many times each word has appeared, basically from the word count. So I'm going to go ahead and say for word in sentences, right? For word in sentence, you're going to go ahead and say word is going to be equals to word.text, and you're going to convert this to a lowercase, right? Lower, just like that. So once we have that done, I'm still going to go ahead and simply say sentence score, and you're going to go ahead and say sentence underscore score, and the sentence score is going to be the following. So in the sentence score, we're just going to go ahead and add something to it. So the sentence score, we're going to say plus equals to, we're going to increment it by the word count, so by the weight of that specific word, right, based on how many times it appeared in that sentence. So we're going to go ahead and say word here. Okay, so just going to update the sentence score with the weight of each of those words, right, how many times this word has appeared in this whole text right here. So once I have that done, I'm simply going to go ahead and append this to my sentences list that I have it here. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it in here, and I'm going to say sentences dot append, right? So I'm going to say sentences dot append. So I'm going to append the following, right? So sentences dot append, you're going to append a tuple, and the first one is going to be the index, which is going to be I, and then the sentence text, right? So I'm going to say sentence dot text, just like that. So sentence dot text, okay, and you're going to do the replace the full with the replace the new lines with just space, okay, dot replace. So we're going to say replace, and you're going to replace the new line character, which is going to be a backslash and then n. You're going to replace that with just an empty sentence, just an empty space for now. And then once I have that, I'm also going to go ahead and say sentence. This is going to be the score of that sentence, right? So sentence, and to calculate the sentence score, we're going to use a bit of mathematics right here. So we're going to get the sentence score divided by the length of the sentence, right? So the sentence, the length of that sentence, just like that. So that's all we need to calculate the index. So this needs to be I value, so not 1. So this is going to be the index, right? The index, and then the sentence text itself, which you have replaced the new line character, which is an empty space, and then you're going to go ahead and get the score of that sentence, and it's going to be equals the score divided by the length of that specific sentence, and that's just the math to calculate the score of each of those sentences. Okay, so once we have that done, we can simply go ahead and we can print this out. If you want, you can just print out the sentence sentences if you are curious. Sentences. So if you are curious of what is inside of the sentences list, which is this one right here, you can just print it out and see that. So let me just go ahead and actually run this code one more time. So once I run this, is what we get, right? So don't worry about the output for now. We'll deal with this just in a second. So I'm just going to clear that up, and we can go back here. So it's actually supposed to be sentences and no sentence. That's why we're getting back that output. So let's go ahead and actually run the code again. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this again. So you can see I have the sentences here, the index, then the sentence, and then its weight and all that information right here. So we're going to be using this to sort our sentence. So this is the second stage of the process, and the second stage, which is scoring those sentences, is done. So the last stage is going to get to sort this the sentence based on the scores and then return the top 3. So let's go ahead and try to sort them. So I'm going to keep a comment and I'm going to say sort sentences, and this is going to be the following. So I'm going to say sorted underscore sentences, and this is going to be the following. So it's going to be, I'm going to say sorted, and then you're going to go ahead and say sentences, just like this, and you're going to say the key is going to be the following. So we're going to get in a lambda function. There's going to be a lambda function, and these are also called anonymous functions from other programming languages. So we're going to say x, and this is going to be x, and so we're going to use negative value. So I'm going to explain to you why we're going to be using negative value. So let me explain to you what I have just done here. So we're going to be sorting the sentence based on what, and this is going to be what the key defines. So we're going to take in x, and you're going to sort based on the second value, which is going to be the score, right? Because it's index 0, index 1, and index 2, right? Which is going to be the score. So you're going to sort based on the score, but you're going to be sorting by using the negative value. The reason why is because the sort function sorts from the smallest to the highest. So to get the reverse of that means from the highest to the smallest, we're going to be using the negative value. That's why I'm using the negative value right here. So once we have that being sorted, let's go ahead and get the top 3 of those sentences. So I'm going to say top underscore 3, top 3, and the top 3 is going to be the following. So I'm going to say sorted, sorted, and then you're going to go ahead and say sorted sentences, which we define there. So sorted sentences, and then you're going to go ahead and get the top 3. So get me the top 3. And then I'm going to go ahead and sort them based on the phone. So I'm going to say key, and this is going to be another lambda function, anonymous function. We're going to take in x, and as I'm going to say x, you're going to sort. Now we're going to sort based on the index of that sentence. So we're going to sort based on 0, right? Because if you want the sentence to be in order, right? Even if it's summarized, you want to start in a chronological order, meaning that if a sentence on line 10 appears before a sentence on line 20, right? So we want the sentence on line 10 to come before the sentence on line 20. That's why we're going to be sorting based on the index, and that's the reason why we are using the index value, right? So we want to get the sentences in the order in which they appeared, even though it's a summary, right? So that's what this step is going to do. So once we have that information, we can just go ahead and print this out. So I'm going to say summary. I'm going to call this summary underscore text, and this is going to be an empty string for now, and we're going to go ahead and loop through. So I'm going to say for we can say for sentence in top 3. So I'm going to say for sentence in top 3, right? So for all those sentences in the top 3 sentences, we're going to go ahead and say summary sentence is going to be plus equals to sentence. We're going to say sentence, and then you're going to get the sentence that you're interested in. You're going to get the very first value. So the very first index, which is going to be, because this is index 0, index 1, right? So we want the very first index, which is the actual sentence text itself, and then you want to add to it an empty space, or plus, and then you're going to add to it a space afterwards. So after that, you can just go ahead and simply print the summary information, so the summary text basically. So let's see what we'll get. So in this case, you're just going to loop through, and each of those loops, we're going to simply get the sentence text itself, which is this first index right here, because this is index this is going to be index 0, and then this is going to be in the index 1, which is a sentence text. That's why I'm using 1 right here. And you're going to add it to this, and then finally you're going to go ahead and print this out, because this for now is just an empty string, right? So let's go ahead and actually see how this all works. So I'm going to go in the terminal and simply run my program again. So once that we have that done, we can see the output that we get. So we say learn all programming skills with me, Python is my best, my most loved language. Happy coding to you all. So this is basically a summary of these sentences. So I have here, I think, 6 of these sentences. So this that gives us a summary of what I have said in those all of those sentences. So if you read this sentence, I can tell you for sure, but I don't want to go ahead and waste you guys time reading for you this sentence out. But I can assure you it's a very, very simple summary of exactly what I said in here. So as I scroll along, you guys can read for yourselves, right? So just scroll along and you guys hopefully can read for yourself. So that's basically it. So now instead from the 6 sentences, we just got the top 3, which gives us a summary of what I have said, right? So this is how we can build a simple sentence summarizer or text summarizer using Python and the Spacy language. I don't know if it's pronounced Spacy or Spicy or Space, I think. Let me know in the comment section below if I'm wrong pronouncing it. And if you guys have any recommendations for future videos, you can leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know about this. Also follow me on social media, on Instagram, on Twitter, on the Discord. Also join the Discord community. All the link is going to be in the description below. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Keep safe.